I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barney, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Bova.
Here.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Here.
Mr. Gottman.
Here.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Here.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Mrs. Warning.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here. Okay, we have a presentation tonight by the Robotics Club.
Am I good to start whenever?
Yes, thank you for coming.
Hello and good evening. It is with our greatest pleasure that Quasics is able to present to you tonight and to share about our club. Quasics is essentially a competitive robotics club that works out of Gateway High School that specializes in VEX robotics competitions and FIRST robotics competitions, which range all around the world. In addition, you'll learn through our presentation that we are a club dedicated to being more than robots, so we actually spend the majority of our time giving back to our community and inspiring the future generations. So without much further ado, I'm Ebru. I'm the club's vice president. This is Haley, our club's treasurer. And Zach was our lead driver and mechanical lead this year for our robotics season. So a little bit about our history. Quasics was founded in 2008. So we've been around for 11 years. It's really incredible that we've been around for more than 10 years at the school. So we originally started in a physics room with 3 coaches and around 10 students. And we basically worked out of this physics room, and we basically built our club up to what it is today. That is that we have about 34 students, and we have 6 volunteer coaches that range from coming from Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, NASA, Bechtel, Google, you name it. They help us out. It makes us have connections, and it helps us become better innovators. Throughout our Quasics history, basically we've had over 100 students come in, and our students have gone to places such as MIT, Harvard, Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, great places to go. And this has been done through our programs in VEX robotics and FIRST robotics. So VEX robotics is actually taught at the high school in our honors robotics classes, so they actually get to do hands-on with these kits of parts. But in our club, we start off our freshmen with VEX because since it is a kit of parts, it's much easier to learn how shaft collars work and how everything works, and motors and programming. After that, they move up to FIRST. The first competition that we specialize is FIRST robotics competition, and FIRST robotics competition is essentially like you build on your own. You drill, you cut, you bandsaw, what you want. It's up to your creativity and how you're going to look at it, which is really great because it's not like you're constrained to a kit of parts. So that's really what we do is we build robots, and I will pass this off to Zach to talk about the rest.
So during our season, we have gained many awards. So first, we'll start with the VEX Award. So our VEX teams, when they design their robots, they don't have any real guidelines, except for they have to keep it within a certain perimeter. So this year, we actually won the design award for having a good design and one that worked and was eye-appealing. For FRC, we won the Team Spirit Award because of the way we put our team together. When we go out to outreach events or we go to a competition, we all have our green shirts. It's who we are. We have our logo, which is like in the top right corner, and it signifies who we are as a team. And we always try to keep with that spirit of being green, being in Gateway, working with the community, and making it work. FRC's Dean's List Award finalists, it's to commemorate students that work hard in and out of school. So for the last 4 years, we have actually had finalists that have gone to the world competition. 2 of them are standing here today with us, actually. And then for this year, we won the FRC Showcase Team Award, which only 8 teams won. And basically what it was it showed that you were one of the top 8 that did stuff in your community, that worked hard, that did well in competition and stuff like that. Now in the community, we do a lot of outreach. our goal is to inspire STEM interest and education. So we always try to go out to small schools or churches, different places like that, Barnes and Noble, a couple other different stores and stuff like that to spread the STEAM field. In 2017 alone, we were in or hosted 42 events and inspired 13,000 people. This year, we actually helped the North American Martyrs Robotics Club. We helped them build their robots, and we also helped them to compete in their competition. And then we actually ended up this week, we went to their club and we did a demonstration with all of our robots that we have built over the time. We also, yesterday, we did Girl Scout Troop, which is based out of St. Bernadette's. So we had 11 girls, and they all came down, and we showed them the robots, and we inspired them that it's not only a guy field, it's also a girl field. So girls can be an engineer, girls can build robots, they can design, they can build, they can do anything in the engineer or STEM field. As tonight we have the board of directors meeting, which you guys are here, and tomorrow we actually are going to do the preschool carnival, which is at Gateway High School. So the Gateway High School has their own preschool, and today the preschool graduated, and tomorrow they're going to have a party, graduation, carnival, and we are going to demo for them. We actually have 2 more Girl Scout troop demos coming up, May 24th and the 25th. We also double booked ourselves for May 26th with a Barnes & Noble's demo, and down here at the Minerva Public Library we are doing a STEM Expo. Also, in July 4th, we'll be doing the Independence Parade, which we did last year and the year before.
Alright, as you may guess, all of this does cost a lot of money. For our FRC registration fees, it is $5,000, and that gets you into the competition for one regional, which is spread over 3 days. And then we also have another team, the Vex Robotics, and their costs turn out to be around $650 for registration into competitions. That includes their registration fees, the 2 qualifiers they compete in, and going to states. Our registration fees are approximately 43% of our annual expenses every year. And along with that, we will most likely be losing one of our sponsors we've had for the last few years, which is Google, and they've been donating around $3,000 to us. However, since they've supported us for a few years now, they would like to move on and support another team so that somebody else gets the chance. So that accounts for about 27% of our income, which will be a huge deficit losing them.
That's it. Any questions?
Okay, so I was coming in the back door of the high school. I was opening all these great big doors, and I was going in, and the robotics team was coming out, loading up the car with these. And this one girl was carrying 2 robots in each arm, and I'm thinking, that's pretty heavy, maybe I should help. So I said, can I carry one of those? She said, don't touch my robots. So you guys do wonderful work. I see that you're asking for some money here, and you make a lot of presentations. Have you ever made a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce? There's a place called the Monroeville Chamber of Commerce, and they have people that go to that are into science, technology, engineering, and math, and they might be a good resource to help fund some of the projects, or places you could go to demonstrate what you do to some of the folks that work at some of the corporations that are involved with science, technology, engineering, and math. Does that sound good?
Yes, thank you for the suggestion.
I'm gonna
But
let
they're,
us.
they're here asking us for money.
Yes.
So do you have a particular number in mind? What are you looking for?
$3,000, I think. is what
Probably because our registration fees are a lot of money, probably covering what Google is supporting us, because that is 1/4 of what we're paying every year. And what you saw on the last slide wasn't just, it was just our registration fees. Like, we have thousands of dollars that go into making the robot. So just like even getting that registration fee is a lot, obviously, but also getting the supplies that we need is also a lot. So it takes a lot of fundraising. So it'd be nice to get what we lost from Google, but obviously that's also a lot of money, but that would be great.
Now, do you guys fundraise?
Yes.
We hold two fundraisers, two main fundraisers a year. One of them, we sell Sbss candies, and we also typically have a raffle of like Penguins tickets or something like that to help raise money. And we also go out and talk to as many companies as we can, since most of our income is from the sponsorships. But we do have a few different fundraisers we do that do pull in a good bit of money to help us out.
So your total budget's in the ballpark of about 11,000? Is that about right?
Yeah, it's this year was around 14,000 for everything total.
Good job. Always make it high. Good job. When asking for money, go for the high number.
I have to say, they were in the parade on last 4th of July, and they were the biggest hit. I mean, people were just amazed at what these high school students can do. So they are like our number one coming back this year for our parade. So looking forward to that. So I'm just going to make a suggestion that we talk about this and come back Monday, maybe with a number, with Sean. He's out there.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Sean, why don't you come on in? Sean is one of our tech guys, Sean McMahon.
I'll do my best to stay out there. I
Sean-
like the kids to do the work. You know?
They did an excellent job. I appreciate what you're doing. Do you have anything to say?
No, we're just thankful for your letting us come in here and talk to you tonight. I think this program is unique. Other than the couple schools around here that have it, I've never seen anything like it before. And I think the kids get a lot out of it. And they've been doing the fundraising work hard for a long time to make this keep being an option for kids in the school district. We'd appreciate any help you can give us now with Google moving on to support other teams like us.
Thanks. I think it's a
Sean's been working a number of years with the robotics club.
11 now?
I was gonna say, even my days as a principal, it'd be 4:30 in the afternoon. I'd hear the saws cranking right across the hallway. So
Yes, sir.
they do a great job.
So let us talk, and we'll come back to you guys. All right?
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Excellent job.
Now we move on. We have a presentation to University Park Elementary and its accomplishments.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. With us tonight, if I could have the individuals who are seated. To my right is Ms. Hoffner, looks at me with those eyes. She's saying, what do I have to do? Yep, you don't have to do anything, Jen. Jen Hoffner, principal at University Park Elementary. Along with Jen, we have teachers Joan Levis, Nikki Burkhart, Nancy Taylor, and Karen Doman. If I could have the five of you please stand. As I've mentioned many times over the last several months, University Park Elementary School came under the leadership of Jen Hoffner 2 years ago. And initially, from the onset, we've seen significant changes with the leadership within the building and an incredible job that she's done with the staff and the teachers. And I would like to spend this time in recognizing the building for their accomplishments. And it was noted, I believe at the beginning of the year in October, when the SPP scores came out. The Allegheny Intermediate Unit in Allegheny County highlighted University Park as the #1 building in the county with the most significant gain in SPP score, over a 20-point increase from one year to the next. So it is my pleasure to present to Ms. Hoffner and her staff this certificate of accomplishment for University Park. Jen, if you would like to accept this. Any comments from the board?
I do. I just want to say I have been very fortunate to know these ladies both in personal and their teaching professional roles. 19 years in and out with these teachers, staff, and friends. You don't realize how they take every child that they have in their class as their own kids, and they do the best that they can with, and they work for everything they possibly can. These kids, when they leave, it's just amazing the love that these kids show for these teachers and everything that they do. I have to say, I really missed when I resigned to come on the school board, leaving you guys and being transferred from different schools, because I always said my kids went to University Park, but it's the best kept secret in the Gateway School District. And you're not going to find a better staff. I know I'm partial, but you guys do a fantastic job, and I really appreciate everything you do from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say something too. My kids didn't go to your school, but I get numerous emails from parents and Facebook messages and communications, and truly they love your school. The majority of the parents in this community absolutely love and adore all of you. And I want the public to understand that you guys go above and beyond. And in the last couple of weeks, it has been made very apparent to this board how above and beyond you guys have gone, especially you, Mrs. Hoffner. The situations that you've been faced with this year have not been fair to you, and you have handled them with grace and dignity and professionalism above and beyond what the average person would do. The way that you respond to people, the way that you take time away from your family and your vacation and your evenings, which you don't have to do, by the way, but that you do. And you all need to be acknowledged for that. And you all need to know that we support you and that we think the world of you, and that we're very impressed with the accomplishments that you have made this year. And we're not going to let anything overshadow that for you guys. And we want to congratulate you all on your accomplishments.
I would like to add one more thing. I do have a child who went there. He earned his way there. He's managed to get out of there with the help of Ms. Taylor. I have to point you out, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Manich, who's no longer Ms. Manich. My son remembers you guys like he was there yesterday, and he's now taking a little break from his studies at Duquesne, which I suspect no one would have believed would happen, and probably wouldn't have happened without you folks, your professionalism, your caring. It was eye-opening, and one of the reasons I'm up here, wanting to be part of this. So I want to thank you guys. Thanks.
My daughter went to University Park Elementary School, and then she grew up. Why did you let that happen?
Those things happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You guys don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Take the rest of the night off.
Thanks.
Comments from residents on agenda items. Do we have anybody wish to address the board at this time? Seeing none. Section B, bills and financial reports. Mr. Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. This evening, we have to present the Section B1 list of bills for the month of May 2018, the Section B2 monthly financial statements for the month of April 2018, and the Section B3 budget transfers for the month of May 2018.
Questions or comments on Section B? Seeing none, moving on. Section C, items previously tabled. We have the approval to purchase the bowling club. Val, is that yours?
I just had suggested this since, they were doing jerseys. I'm just going to make the motion to approve the purchase of the Gateway Bowling Club jerseys for the 17-18 fiscal year. It would cost approximately $761.25 for the bowling team. Jerseys for Century Sports. We're looking at a total of 25 jerseys.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Warning.
Is this an action item?
Well, she
No.
just made a motion.
I was making a motion.
This is
To,
a
Okay.
to untable it, right?
motion to untable. Yes?
Yes?
Yes. Bonnie, can we have a roll call?
One moment. Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now, will this be on the agenda to vote, or can we vote this evening?
I think you could vote this evening if you want to.
I think it's on the agenda for next week.
Right.
This really isn't a voting.
Okay,
No.
all right.
Section D, Personnel Matters. Ms. Crump.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We do have one resignation listed for leaves of absence. We have 3 names presented. Per the collective bargaining agreement for Teamsters, we have 3 transfers listed. We are also recommending the employment of Cameron Earhart. This is one of our students who will also be helping videotape. I don't know if he's here tonight, but he will start mentoring with a group, and he will be at the board meetings after this. Supplemental contracts, we are doing some of the issuances for the 18-19 school year. Pending budget approval, these are the recommendations that we have to date, and 2 volunteers.
Questions, comments on Section D?
Question. The elementary director of music orchestra, if they are not employed through the district, they still can do supplemental contracts?
Yes, a lot of our supplementals
Okay.
are.
Any other questions or comments on Section D? Seeing none. Section E, Conferences and Conventions.
Thank
Thank you, Dr. Short. Within Section E, we have 3 conferences and conventions as listed for 3 individuals to attend the National Autism Conference.
Questions or comments on Section E?
I got one question. Is there a reason why one costs $1,300 while the others only cost $300 for the same time being there?
Typically, one individual, we put the room and all the other supplemental information in for the cost.
Mileage and everything.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's why the difference is there. So usually the other 2 would be registration.
Any other questions on Section E?
One. Okay, never mind, I'll ask next time. Go ahead.
Sure. Moving on to Section F, Administrative Resolutions. The first part is an action agenda, so everybody's occurred. And Mr. Short?
I'll defer to Mr. Shot on item number 1.
Thank you, Dr. Short. Item number 1 is to approve the award of the base bid for the Gateway High School Stadium Wall Remediation Project to CPS Construction Group Incorporated in the amount of $668,172, who was the lowest responsible bidder to meet the district bid specifications for specified repairs to the applicable walls and ramp areas located in front of the stadium bleachers as a capital repair project to be completed during the 2018 to 2019 fiscal year and as depicted in Exhibit A.
Questions, comments?
Whoa.
Brian?
Okay.
And just so the public understands, this is the retention wall outside of the tunnel entrance to the stadium.
Can you hold off on continuing the meeting until the recording gets going again?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So is this like a commercial time?
5-minute recess if anybody needs one.
Do they? Yeah, they do the nurse office.
You okay, Joe? Needs another water or?
Just mine. Just my vote. No.
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
Well, I didn't do it.
Done?
Okay, we're back on.
I'm just gonna
So weird.
Okay, with the information related to the retaining wall, this is the wall that's outside of the tunnel entrance to the high school stadium. This is the existing wall that was built in 1958. The wall also supports, it extends north towards the refreshment stand area of the stands. And from my information, the bids came in and we had rejected the addendum piece.
Correct, yeah, the alternate, the bid alternate
The
was
alternate
rejected.
bid, which was the facade area of the wall, came in our estimate too costly for the district. So at this point in time, we would like to have that awarded tonight if the board so chooses to do so, and we would begin, I believe, primarily right after graduation.
Day after graduation?
Yes.
So is there a motion for this?
George?
Motion by Mr. Lapsovich, second by Ms. Warning. Questions or comments on item number 1, base bid for the wall at the stadium?
I have like a question, but it kind of uses both section 1 and 2. I don't know if I can have a question involving both of them this time.
Yes.
Okay. So looking at these, it's $668,000 for the construction of the wall. So if they're the guys that are putting together this wall, then why do we need to spend the $44,000 for another group to work on this as well?
It's a very good question, Mr. Shaw.
And it's for our oversight services on that. When we had an issue with our other famous or infamous retaining wall at the stadium that didn't have the proper oversight for it, we had to redo that wall and spend significant amount of money between legal fees and other costs for that. This firm actually helped us when we rebuilt the wall to make sure it was done properly. We've had no issues with that wall when it was done. So the natural inclination was when we were having another failing wall that we had CEC come in and provide the analysis and do all the steps. Item number 2 would be their third phase of the project for them to oversee that. And in my opinion, based on their prior work, I think it's worth every penny to have them do it.
Significant oversight and protection for the district. This would be the ramp area that's utilized by a number of students, and also the wall that supports really the stands at the high school stadium. So we have to ensure that it's done correctly.
Okay.
It's a CYA situation.
Mr. Bob Brown, do you agree that this is beyond the scope of what you and your staff can do, but an outside organization has the ability to govern this?
We are not engineers.
Could you go to the mic, please?
Really?
To tell the world you're not engineers. Go to the mic to tell the world you're not engineers, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Ritter.
Your name?
our
Not an
crew
engineer.
are-
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Address 9,000.
Get your name for the record.
Yeah, 7,000
Please sign in.
Campus Boulevard, I live there.
And I am not an engineer.
And our crew are maintenance men. These are civil engineers, well beyond our capabilities. We are assisting them with accesses and everything they need from the district to make it happen. But this is what they do for a living. It is not within our scope of abilities.
Right. You're highly in favor of having this
Absolutely.
team help get the wall built and built correctly to specification and
I was
cheapest
not
way possible.
involved in the original wall many years ago. Highly impressed by this group.
Thank you.
And what they do. So very much in favor of it.
Myself and Paul Schott were witness to that wall being built on the far side of the stadium. It's really a retention wall. It was put in place by a road company. And it quickly failed. Both ends of the track really concaved in, and it had to be replaced, and a lot of litigation, and it cost the district a lot of money and the taxpayers. So this is oversight needed.
Want to do it right the first time.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Bonnie, please roll call, please.
This is on item 1 alone, yes?
Correct.
Yes.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsovich. Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 2.
Item number 2 is directly related to item number 1, is to approve the structural engineering professional service fees with Civil and Environmental Consultants Incorporated in the total amount of $44,900 for the Gateway High School Stadium walls and ramp areas remediation contractor construction oversight phase of work as a capital repair project to be completed during the 2018-2019 fiscal year and is depicted in Exhibit B.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lapsovich, second by Ms. Warning. Questions or comments on number 2? Seeing that, can we have a roll call, Marty?
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsovich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3.
Number 3, Paul.
Item number 3, approve the purchase of the Adent the Kid visitor management software in the total amount of $8,016.22 for a 2017-2018 fiscal year and as depicted in Exhibit C.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Gottman. Questions or comments on item 3?
What is the necessity to replace the current red box software located at all the buildings?
Hi, Micah.
Micah, I knew he was walking in.
Just, I mean, I'm not questioning it, just for
What's the
public,
question?
the reasoning for the necessity to replace the red box software.
So we're finding there's problems reading the current driver's licenses. We've been in touch with the company. Unfortunately, their solution relies on something called OCR technology, where it attempts to read your first name, your last name, and your birthday off the license. The way the scanners work is when they pull through, sometimes the driver's license is smudged, it's inaccurate, and it just gets the information wrong. This software uses the barcode on the back, which means it's always going to scan correctly and quickly the first time. It also streamlines it a bit. Right now, there's no pop-up on the secretary system, so they have to manually check if a badge didn't print out, if they're a sex offender. This will allow it to pop up on the screen, and they can respond to it quicker.
So it's going to help increase security for all the buildings.
Increase security and streamline operations.
Okay, thank you.
So we're keeping the red boxes, just different
We're keeping the
software.
physical hardware except for the scanners, which are being replaced.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Micah.
Any other questions or comments? Barney, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Lapsovich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre. Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, the following is the administrative resolutions that we are not acting on tonight.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Item number 1 and item number 2, Dr. Rossi.
Very short, with final approval of the following textbooks, just for clarification purposes. For next week, we'll be ready for number 1, Pearson Ready Gen, and the last one, the Amplified ESL curriculum. The other ones we'll probably put on hold till June to make a final decision. Number 2, we have a grant, pollinator flower garden for Evergreen Elementary. That's in conjunction with Phipps in their outdoor garden.
Item number 3 and 4, Dr. Chapin.
Item number 3, we have 2 facility agreements, one with the Gateway Midget Football and Cheerleading, and also with the Greater Johnstown Career Tech. Item number 4, seeking approval of behavior support and emotional support student education services at Delphi Education Services for the 2018-19 fiscal year.
Item number 5, Ms. Crump.
Number 5.
Yes.
Nursing substitutes.
Nursing substitutes, Bayada and School Nursing Services for RN and LPN. Approve the agreement with Bayada Pediatrics to provide in-school nursing services for RN and LPN substitutes for the 18-19 school year.
And number 6, following with that.
Bayada Pediatrics and School Nursing Service for 1 student. Approve the agreement with Bayada Pediatrics and School Nursing Services to provide nursing services for 1 student during the 2018-2019 school year.
Dr. Rossi.
Number 7, we have renewal of the Waterfront Learning District Cyber School Allegheny Intermediate Unit number 3 for the 18-19 school year.
And Mr. Shaw, I'm going to hand it over to you for a number here.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Short. Item number 8 is to approve the continuation of the service agreement with CTI Water Treatment Solutions for required heating and cooling water treatment testing and inspection services in the total amount of $4,650 for a 2018-2019 fiscal year, and is depicted in Exhibit C. Item number 9, approve Approve the continuation of the records disposal service agreement with Shred-it for the secure collection and off-site disposal of district records at the unit prices as indicated in the customer service agreement for purge service as depicted in Exhibit D. Item number 10, approve the continued appointment of Richard M. Affelter, Jr., DMD, as a district school dentist for the 2018-2019 fiscal year at the rate of $5 per student dental examination. Item number 11, approve the change from William K. Giongilio, MD, to Joseph T. Doherty, MD, who are both with a group of physicians from Forbes Regional Hospital, to begin serving as a district school physician beginning on July 1st, 2018, and approve the change to Exhibit A, physician name change, in the corresponding professional services agreement for the renewal term beginning on July 1st, 2018, as depicted in Exhibit E.
I will take item number 12, approval of appointment of school board treasurer for the 2018-19 fiscal year. Approved in accordance with Section 404 Pennsylvania Public School Code, the continued appointment of Paul A. Schott, business manager, as the school district's board treasurer for a one-year period commencing July 1 through June 30th.
See, you only want to apply.
He is the- Item number 13.
We'll continue. Item number 13.
Wait for some comments there.
Accept the following district donation received during the 17-18 fiscal year. Donations is from Let's Move Pittsburgh Champion Schools Grant Program through Phipps Conservatory and Botanical Gardens. Recipient was Suzanne Kovac and Michael Mateo for a tower garden at Evergreen Elementary School in the amount of $1,000. Item number 14, approve in accordance with Section 621 of the Pennsylvania School Code the continued designation of PNC Bank Miracle Mile Office as the district's depository of funds for a one-year period from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Item number 15, approve in accordance with Section 440.1 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code the continued investment of district funds with one or more of the following financial institutions: PNC Bank, Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund, and any other appropriate FDIC-insured financial institution not specifically listed above, in accordance with the collateralization requirements established by the Pennsylvania School Code during the period from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Item number 16 is to approve the 18-19 fiscal year operating and administrative budgets for a Forbes Road Career and Technology Center in the amount for the operating budget, $6,362,057, and the administrative budget, $1,481,039. Let me note that the district's portion of the administrative budget for the 18-19 fiscal year is projected to be $75,189.74, and all this detail is depicted in Exhibit F. Item number 17 is to adopt and approve the advertisement and required placement on public display via the budget form PDE 2028, the proposed final general fund budget for the 18-19 fiscal year in the amount of $75,730,000. It is further resolved the 18-19 proposed final general fund budget shall be considered for adoption at the board's regular meeting to be held on Wednesday, June 27, 2018. The final public hearing for a proposed final general fund budget will take place on Tuesday, June 5, 2018 at 6 p.m. in the high school LGI room. Please note that this is a requirement of Act 1 that not only the district but all school districts in the Commonwealth must comply with, and that is to adopt a proposed final budget and to put it on display via the required PD budget document. There is still work to be done in the budget. Administration is continuing to review the budget, not only expenditures, but also revenues, in order to close the gap as indicated in the notes to this particular resolution.
Item number 18 and 19. Dr. Rossi.
We have another 30-day public display of new textbooks for a new AP English course. That's also number 19 as well, to add a new AP English 11 course.
Item number
Mr.
20.
Schott, you had a little break there.
Approve the renewals and premium payments for the following applicable district insurance coverage policies for the 18-19 fiscal year, as depicted below, and also as depicted in Exhibit G. And these are some of the renewals. We'll actually have another batch that I'm actually currently working on to present to the board in June. But these ones were ready, so that's why we want to present these right now. Item number 21 is actually also a related item. Approve the renewal and premium payment for the current Better Employment Compensation Comprehensive Program offered directly by the Pennsylvania School Boards Association for stop-loss insurance protection if annual unemployment insurance claims reach the maximum premium, which is $150,326.90 during the 18-19 fiscal year, and is depicted in Exhibit H.
Number 22, Dr. Rossi.
We received our final allocation, so we need to approve Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV federal funds, final allocation amounts for the 17-18 fiscal year as listed.
Item number 23, approve the Torque Advantage Dispenser lease agreement with Essity Professional Hygiene, N.A. LLC for the lease of paper towel dispensers for the period of April 1st, 2018 through March 31st, 2021, and the corresponding purchase of the paper towel refills through Pitt Specialty Supply Incorporated at a fixed price for the term of the paper towel dispenser lease agreement as depicted in Exhibit I.
Questions or comments on anything?
Except for lots of budget.
I do.
It's not like that all the time,
There you go.
Number 11, we're looking for the school position. Now, I see in 10, the dentist is charging $5 per student, all right, for the dental exam. The cost for the physician, does that say how many students that they examine?
No, not for physician. I would like to note that this amount has probably been the same for probably at least the last 25 years.
Okay,
It's a
reason why I'm
bargain.
asking is, I know with physicals, with, the football team, the track team, everybody that needs the physicals throughout the school year, we have had issues with, questions, I should say, from parents regarding the band. They do as much practicing on blacktop and that during the summer, and I don't know if they would be required to have physicals. I was going to bring that up for a question. Comments? I mean, is that worth considering, band receiving physicals?
I honestly, I couldn't even answer that.
That is typically not happened in my 30-year career where the band members would have physicals for the district, but I can definitely contact Mr. Helchi, talk to some other school districts to see if that is part of their operations.
I'm just putting that out there just so that we're covered in case.
Any other questions or comments on section F?
I got one small question. It's more just out of curiosity. On item 19, we're adding the AP course. So how many AP courses in total would we be having then? Anyone know?
I'm not sure I have the total numbers, quite a few within our high school program of studies. We have a very comprehensive program of studies, but the AP courses, part of the new ESSA standards is pushing students to enroll in those AP courses. And of course, the potential is there to gain credits for the passing of an AP test with a score of 3 or higher. So we're constantly pushing our students to do that.
Okay.
One more question. Number 5, the nursing substitutes. Would be ones that are not yet nurses, that they are job shadowing the nurses that we have here?
Now, what that is for is we have always used Bayada as a supplemental nursing service for like when we have field trips. We need additional coverages on days when our nurses have been out and we cannot get one through Kelly Services. If we know in advance, we contract them out also. So they're just as a supplement. I think we used them maybe twice this year. We don't use them very often.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on section F? Section G, resolutions presented by board members. Do we have any this evening? Comments from residents on non-agenda items. Has anybody signed up on it?
No one signed up.
Anybody at this time wish to address the school board on non-agenda items?
Do have one sign up on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wait, did I forget it? We're talking for an hour.
Joey's up. And I would like to thank the school board for letting me talk here tonight. I would like to address the fact that we need to add cursive back to the
You're okay.
We're doing great. Curriculum because during my research I have found out that studies have shown that it is better for students with learning disabilities such as autism and dyslexia, and this is probably because it targets different centers of the brain, which by the way is my next point. It helps with fine motor skills, and also students who know how to use cursive actually score better on their tests. Also, if they know how to write cursive, that way they know how to make their own signatures, which if they don't, then they will never be able to sign a check or buy anything with a credit card. That is, if they can even open up a bank account at all. And the district has to teach this, because if they don't, there is no evidence that the student will be able to do this at home. And I realize that this is not just Gateway who is taking cursive out of their curriculum, and I realize that this is a nationwide trend. However, if this keeps on going on, then this could raise a whole entire generation of people who can't even read their own constitution.
That's a good point.
Because it's written in cursive.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
That's right.
She gets an A.
What's the matter with you guys?
Keep going.
Anything else, Joey?
Also cursive is actually a lost art, and if people keep on not teaching it, then people might just forget about cursive.
There you go.
Nice job.
I think that's
very much.
Very good suggestion, because if people don't know how to sign correctly, you can't read what they sign, you're in danger of becoming a doctor. Like Dr. Jesse Couch, now you can't read his handwriting at all. But the question is, nuns used to teach this in the olden days. I have the fingers to prove it, and I really agree. This is something that ought to be taught in schools.
Where is it currently now? Just second grade, I
isn't
think?
it?
And
What's going on with
is taught
cursive, Dr. Rossi?
No, she made some very good points. I think in second grade is where they begin it, but it probably, just from my own experience with my kids, it's probably just something they just cover instead of going into great
It's
detail.
formally taught within the second grade at all 4 of our elementary buildings. However, after the second grade, practice generally occurs with cursive.
May I say something?
Yes.
Yes.
She's right. I'm always glad when the
That was
kids are
quick.
right. My name's Cheryl Boyce. I live in Monroeville. She's absolutely correct. When she was talking about dyslexia, we all know the problem with dyslexia is the way they read the letters. And they've proven, the research is very, very clear, that when you teach cursive and they have to learn to do that, that does help those students. She's absolutely 110% correct. I'd like to see Gateway be the exception to the rule, because I have a parent here saying we don't really do cursive like we used to, especially with those kids. Especially, now I can't say about autism because that's a whole different ball of wax, but dyslexia and anybody with a reading issue, that's profound. That's profound, and the research is very clear that this young lady is absolutely correct. So I would like to see us take the lead on this, and I don't really care what 499 districts are doing in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I only care what this one's doing. And I always like to think that Gateway's ahead of the curve on stuff. So I applaud you. You're right, you should be very proud of her. She got it.
I very much am.
And she's helping the kids that need that extra help. And they really do. So she's right.
Right.
I'm just thrilled that somebody realizes that.
No, you're right. I remember a parent come up to me that 8th graders had to sign something, and most of the kids didn't know how to sign. They would print their names.
Yeah, but when you think about it though, think about dyslexic. They don't have the sequence of the thing, but if you're forcing their brain to do cursive and make that come together, that helps that situation. It also helps with memory. There's a condition with kids that have memory issues, and that also helps in the same part of the brain, the kids that have memory issues. Some kids have short term. Some kids have been diagnosed with attention deficit. In reality, they don't have it. They have a memory problem. And those kind of things, it's in the same section of the brain. So I'm thrilled that somebody brought that up.
Can you fix that, Dr. Ronson? Okay. She is right. I've had that. I have seen children that are approaching their teen years right now that don't know how to sign backs of checks or sign documents.
They print.
They never had to do their own signature, and it's a problem.
Okay, anybody else at the time wish to address this board on non-agenda items?
Yes, my name is Jerry Zaleski with a company called Institutional Specialties, and we represent Daktronics scoreboards. I emailed all of you individually, board members individually, requesting consideration for our equipment and company in the scoreboard for the stadium. That was not given to us or not afforded to us in the conversations that were had previously, and I'm asking for that now. I have information to distribute. I know Mr. McIntyre and I have talked directly. He'd asked for 3 different proposals, one of which keeping the board as is, replacing it as is, and then doing the consideration that would be equivalent to what you heard from OES. Because I was not asking for this in that I asked for a meeting, but not knowing what the expectations are of the board, I kind of need a little bit of direction as far as what I'm allotted here with my time.
I think it's, yeah, 5 minutes would be tops, and it's more or less question, answer, I would think.
My apologies to the rest of you, and I'll just hand this out. You guys can distribute this. I've got 11 copies here, so starting with board members and just pass it through. Oh, excuse me, wrong one. Wrong one, my bad. For the record, there was some confusion as to what all transpired, at least with our company, in presenting on this item. There was an initial meeting on or about March 1st where I was asked to come in and discuss your consideration for a new scoreboard. That meeting mostly focused around funding and sponsorships and what other school districts have done in the area that we've been involved with, and how they raised money. And what you were considering doing. We talked only basically in design, or what you were considering doing here for Gateway. We had an additional meeting on campus on March 23rd. Present with that were just Bob Brown and George Laplovich. Unfortunately, Dr. Short wasn't able to attend that one. He had a last-minute change of plans. In that meeting, we talked more specifically about a design and some of the installation logistics. That resulted in us submitting some renderings to you on April 4th that had some ideas based on that meeting. Those renderings were further revised by Bob Brown on the 13th of April in a phone call, and that was because of the conversation that you had started with OES and trying to make some of our ideas similar to what they were offering. During all these times, all of our information presented to you was budgetary in nature, because in our mind there wasn't yet a definite specific quantity, size, included equipment, accessories, etc., that was to be included in the package. That conversation still needed to be had, at least in my mind. There were never any written specifications on this. All the information and ideas were all verbal in nature. And that was on the 15th of April that I presented that last go-around with some budgetary information to Mr. Brown, and had asked for a meeting to finalize all that so that we could submit a formal proposal. I got a phone call on April 30th stating that the board had made a decision in your April 26th meeting to allocate funds for a scoreboard purchase, but yet we had never been given that opportunity. And that's what I'm here asking for now. In that sheet that I just handed out to you, I'm going to summarize your considerations this way, that you basically can do one of three things. You can keep the board as is. As a manufacturer, and we were the vendor that supplied that board originally, we can guarantee that we can keep it operational for a period of at least 3 years, possibly 5. There is nothing in that board that is still not made today by the factory. I've gone through the service that we've done on that board over since installation in 06, and can detail that to the board as well. But essentially, it has not been anything of catastrophic in nature, nor expensive, etc. To the best of my knowledge, that board is functional today 100% as it should be. If there have been problems, I am not aware of it. No one has made us aware of it. The last service call we did last year was for a $600 repair on a power supply. If I don't know about it, I can't fix it. So option number 1, keep the board as is until you decide on your funding and some of these other things as far as how do you want to pay for anything new additional that you want to do down there. Option 2, you could replace it with something similar. In that proposal there, that would be roughly a $45,000 expenditure to the district. And your third option would be to go with what was discussed at your last board meeting with a completely new board presented by OES. I would like the opportunity to present what we have to do there. Unfortunately, 5 minutes time, there's not sufficient time to go into all the details and everything that you need to be aware of. But highlighted there in the bottom, a section of what I just handed to you, from what I've been able to find out, the display that we were talking about in our budgetary information was 8% larger. It was of a better resolution. There were some inclusions with things that we're doing on the scoreboard with electronic naming that we were including, new delay of game clocks that aren't in the proposal that you heard from OES. The sound system, there were no details whatsoever of what was being proposed there by the other company. The system we are proposing to you is one of 26 other ones that we have that are similar to that in that area. It exists today. It's not just speakers that you're going to put in a cabinet and put a little bit of mesh around it and call it an enclosure. The power, and this came off the other specification, that the power of the board from OES is going to be considerably higher. It uses a total of 185 amps, and we're only going to be 185 by OES, 125 for ourselves. Why is that important? That's cost. While you're operating this thing, it's using more power. It's going to cost you more money to operate it. You have multiple manufacturers in that other proposal. At least 3. You have a scoreboard company, a video display company, and you have a sound company. With our company, Daktronics, we do everything 100% in-house. So if there's any problems, you need service work, you're only calling one organization, not 3. We offer local service. We have 4 technicians in Pittsburgh alone that can service our equipment. And we are now offering a guarantee that anything that is made by Daktronics, that we promise that we can either repair or replace it for a period of not less than 10 years from the date of installation. The reason for that is because there is a lot of Chinese product coming in right now. In the Chinese manufacturing model, you can order something today, want to buy the identical item 6 months from now, and you can leave in a completely different supply chain in the Chinese market, which is why they offer a lot of spare parts, so that you have some spare parts when something breaks. But the problem is, if you need to get those spare parts repaired, A, they're going overseas, and B, do you know if they even have the capability of being able to repair them. For a district that's thinking about investing $250,000 or $300,000, I think there's more information that you need to be aware of in order to make that a better decision as to what's the best usage of those types of funds, given that dollar amount that you're considering spending. I would like to have the appropriate amount of time that I assume the other company was given to present some of the same information, just with a little bit more detail. I have a proposal book that can be available, but I recognize that there is a time allotment here, and I want to respect that. And at this point, I'll answer any questions.
Does this board have any questions for Mr. Zielinski?
Yeah, I do. When we were at the last meeting and we said we needed a final offer from your company, and you came across with like a $380,000 offer. Has that changed now?
The $380,000 offer was for a scoreboard that was almost 40 feet wide. And that's where we initially went after our conversation on March the 23rd. Mr. Brown revised that later in a phone call asking for a 25-foot wide scoreboard that I gave him a budget number of $300,000 in an email. And in that email is also when I said, look, because there are two companies involved now, you need to compare apples and apples. And I don't believe that was done. You've got really ideas and proposals, but without the way to kind of make a comparative between the two as to what all the specifics are, what the nuts and bolts are, it becomes difficult unless you're in that business to be able to do that. So, George, to answer that question, no. I mean, in my mind, we are always on a budgetary nature. I was never asked to present a formal proposal, be it written or otherwise, that would spell out everything that we are intending to do, because in a lot of the circumstances, there were a lot of details that still needed to be worked out. You know, you're going to do a video board, but we hadn't determined how you're going to get that video image that you want to run through your own internal television network, but then run it through our equipment in order to get it to the board. Well, that equipment exists in the high school. So now you've got to interface something in the high school with down at the stadium in order to go to the board. Well, how is all that going to happen? So there's a lot of things on the installation side and some of those details and what equipment was going to be needed that was never answered or never calculated as far as I knew about. And those were the types of questions that when Mr. Brown asked for this last thing that was all done on the phone, to have that conversation, and that conversation was never had.
Mr. Brown, what were the dimensions of the last scoreboard? Was it a 40?
It was, but Mr. Zaleski is correct in what he has said. The sizes changed many times within our conversations, unfortunately. It did go from 40 to 25, where I did speak with him to let him know in order to keep things more on a level playing field, so he wasn't looking at something that wasn't apples to apples. After that point, there was changes in our meetings that, with other designs, that did increase it back up to that 40-foot range.
Okay, and you're saying about Japanese products and all this. Are you saying that OES is getting their products from overseas?
OES is the manufacturer of the scoreboard itself, just the fixed digit scoreboard itself. The video board is made by a company called Lighthouse. Lighthouse is headquartered in California. They get all the product from China. And then the sound company is a third company. The manufacturer I believe they're intending to use is from Atlanta or Georgia area through a local company here in Pittsburgh. So you actually have three different manufacturers,
Okay.
but only the one is from China, and that's the video. But that's also the largest, biggest piece of this puzzle that you see. Round numbers is $100,000 of the overall thing just for the equipment.
Okay, they stated to me at the last meeting that none of their parts were from overseas, and also the main manufacturer of that screen is their manufacturer that they do themselves is in Canada. Do you know anything about Canada?
Yes. Well, and depending on who's making the comment, but my understanding and my assurance is that OES is making the scoreboard, that is made in Canada. Lighthouse is making the video board, that's made in China. The sound equipment is made by a company in Georgia.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions. You maintain the existing scoreboard?
I do,
For how long have you done that?
since it was installed in 2003. And for what it's worth, the scoreboard prior to that, which goes back to 1992.
So the original scoreboard was purchased from your company in 2003?
Yes.
And you've been maintaining it ever since?
Yes.
What do you think is the expected lifetime of a scoreboard?
Difficult to say unequivocally. I said at least 3 years, possibly 5. We can buy all new parts from it right now today from the factory, and other than the shell being in its existing paint condition, put all new guts in it, and it's good for another 15 or 20 years.
At what cost, though? There comes a point when you're repairing something
Right, a new scoreboard of the
versus
same...
a new scoreboard.
Well, and keep in mind, you have two parts of that scoreboard. You have an electronic sign and you have a scoreboard. that $45,000 would be for all of it. I believe what you've had most problems with, and once a year, if that's anything habitual, is only been with the scoreboard itself. If you bought a brand new scoreboard today, round numbers, $15,000, $18,000. To put all new parts in it, probably $10,000. To continue to do what we've been doing, which is repair it on an as-needed basis, depending on what's wrong, that could be, and some of the problems could be a $20 cord to a $400 driver.
Do you know how much money we've spent in the last year with your company on repairs?
Yes.
Mary Beth, you asked for just the scoreboard, or are we asking also with the marquee?
I think right now we're just looking at the scoreboard.
Well, the scoreboard and the top front, because that's what we priced
Right.
replacing, correct? So total of both. I would be interested to know what we're spending annually, or
You spent $200 this year on a repair. Last year you spent $465. In 15, you spent $460 on a repair. You also bought another control console as a backup or primary, and that was $1,100. Then in 13, you spent $845. In October of 2012, you spent $675, and I can keep going backwards.
is that just a scoreboard, or is that the video on the top also?
That's just the scoreboard. There have been no video repair, message center repairs is technically what that is called.
All right.
There are no message center repairs whatsoever until you'd have to go back to '08. There was a $583 repair done on the message center.
Now, your option 1 says you can guarantee providing factory replacement parts for at least 3 more years and keep it functional for the same period of time with the 0 to 3,000 question mark. Are you able to put an absolute cap on expenditure? Or are you not able to do that?
No, because you don't know what's
They could
going to
get hit by
break.
lightning tomorrow.
Right.
It's a valid question, though.
No, it is, but yeah.
Well, we could fix it today and it'll be hit by lightning next week, so.
Right. That could
Or
happen
you
with the
can
new
fix
one.
it and it would not get hit by lightning, but something could still fail because it's obviously
parts always fail.
13 or 14 years older.
Yes,
So obviously, there's no guarantee, like anything else of that age.
correct.
Sure. Mr. Brown, when you were deciding between the 25-foot width or the 40-foot width, how did that process go?
Actually, that's not.
Could you go to the mic so the folks from home could?
Actually, that is not my decision. That was brought to me with the, from the Buildings and Grounds Committee to pursue the new board, not replacing or fixing up the old one. That came in the meetings with discussions with the OES folks as far as what we wanted and how the layout of the advertising panels were and how they fit together with the video screen and the scoreboard and what we wanted to see as a scoreboard. So, and that's what it evolved to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got it.
I mean, Jerry and I have worked together since I've been here. They were here a little more recently, maybe within the last month or so. We do have issues with that board. He has always been there. I gotta give him that. I mean, we've had a good relationship. Through this whole process of what I was asked to do, it got away from repairing or keep repairing, because when it breaks in the middle of something, not when we're not using it.
That was the impression we were given last time you
Yes,
discussed
it
this.
doesn't break sitting out there now. When we're in the middle of a game and it fails, unfortunately, that's what happens.
No, obviously, I'm not telling you how to do your business. Is there some kind of tune-up that is available for this old board? Instead of just fixing something as it breaks, is there any proactive kind of upgrades that would get more life out of this thing? And at what cost, obviously? And my God, we spent a lot of time talking about scoreboard, haven't we?
In the context that you're asking, not practically. You can't always update every single digit that's in there. You can change the driver that's in there. You know, one of the things I was gonna talk about on specifics, this is an old style digit, this is a segment, actually you can get an idea how it's coded, but this is a new one. You can see all this potting that's in here now for keep the water out and make it last longer. Well, we get these out of here and put these in there. The driver's the same way, which is the brain of the thing. Percentage-wise, I threw out a $15,000 to $18,000 for a brand new board. If we got into every single thing that we could do as far as replacing a part, you're still probably going to be in a $10,000 or $12,000 expenditure. I don't know exactly. I've got to go to the factory and price it. And that puts you back effectively with all new stuff on 0 day, starting all over again, if that makes logical sense given what you want to do going forward. If you do want to do a big, nicer board, and there's a number of them around now, you've got one down the road that we did 2 years ago. That's kind of the push that the schools are doing. There's a lot of things that you can tie in with the kids and doing things with the TV side and stuff. And we'd like to talk more about that, because I think once you learn a little bit more about how we do things in that model, there would be some things there that will allow you to make a more informed, decision that you may not be aware of right now. So not knowing ultimately what you want to go, and for what it's worth, I know that you want to pay through this through sponsorship. We have a sports marketing program that Daktronics offers. And unlike other companies, we don't take a cut of the proceeds. Once we raise the dollar amount that we need to pay for the scoreboard, we're done. And if we go above and beyond that, as far as whatever we raise through fundraising, the rest of it goes back to you 100%. In other words, we only want what covers the board. We'll put the board up, we'll support it. Anything that comes after that is gravy. It's a fairly simple agreement. Not a lot of boilerplate or whatever, but it is a contract. You need to give us your rights for advertising, and then we go to market and do that for you. We have that ability to do that as well. Those are all things that we can kind of talk about, but that doesn't always come up when you're having a meeting on site, and depending on what the context of what the conversations are. So do know that though.
Mr. Zaleski, did OES give a quote for the Franklin Regional Scoreboard?
I do not know.
You do not know that? I'm surprised you would not know that, being
Well,
how aggressive you were here.
A lot of stuff is bought through state contract now, but I believe Franklin was done through a public bid, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe we were the only bidder.
So pretty much a monopoly.
How so, monopoly?
Meaning if you were the only bidder, were you the exclusive contact with Franklin Regional?
I know they were talking to us as far as wanting our equipment. Again, we were there already. Most school districts like the fact that we're local. We have service availability, as Mr. Brown has talked about, responsiveness. We keep local parts here so that if it happens at 4 o'clock on a 7 o'clock kickoff, that if we're there, we can go help them out. And schools like that. And for that reason, we do very, very well in this area. One of the other things I was willing to share with the group is that, just looking at football, we've got 8 of the 9 6A schools. We've got 22 of the 24 5A schools. 15 of the 18 4A, et cetera, all the way down the line. I think part of that is because we represent a very good manufacturer. The other OES calls themselves the team of the pros, but if you look into the proposal that they sent to you, you see the nice big jumbotron on the picture, but you read in the verbiage there that they only made the controlling system or the score system and maybe the shot clocks. The stuff that you actually see is all done by somebody else. That's the business that Daktronics in. We do the whole system. We're doing the video, we're doing the sound, we're doing all the control, what we call super systems. The last, I don't know how many Super Bowls have all been Daktronics. The final 4 have all been at Daktronics facilities. They have established themselves as a market leader who are able to provide reliable equipment that performs at a fair price or at a competitive price. Rarely are we the low price. And as we talk about this import stuff and how they do things, there's always going to be cheap stuff out there. But cheap doesn't mean it's better or that's a good fit for you. And I think when you look at the big picture and all these other things that need to be considered, I think that's what brings us to the table, Daktronics, Institutional Specialties, and why we have a very strong market share in this area. Yes, we do. I'd like to think that we're kind of the best, but I don't think we're the best just because I say so. I think because we prove it with how well our products perform, when they do have problems, how quickly we can fix them, be it something that's 13 years old that we can still repair today. That's not going to happen with some of this other stuff. We already know that we lost a job, the Lighthouse down in Maryland 3 years ago, the video company, that they gave them a bunch of spare parts. They've already gone through all their spare parts, and now the board doesn't work. So they have a six-figure investment down there, and they have a vendor, they can't support their product and put them back in business after 3 years. And I've got tons of those stories that we can tell. Daktronics on their website has a reliability lab that you can go to that, you know, we're not dumb. You know, there are other companies that are making these things, so we go get their products, we put them in a testing lab, and let's see how long they're gonna last. If they're supposed to last for 100,000 hours, then they shouldn't be all discolored and not looking correctly or having problems after only 20. But that's exactly what happens, even though on paper they're supposed to all be the same, they're supposed to be equivalent. And those are the things that you need to be aware of. So that, again, to me, you're making a fairly significant big dollar item purchase. You need to know about all these things that are kind of going on, but, you know, kind of putting things back in our way. You know, North Allegheny did a big board a couple of years ago. They're at Daktronics. West Allegheny did a big one last year. They were at Daktronics. You know, OES only has one board in this area that I know of that was 6 years ago down at Hempfield. And the video company that they used at that board was the company called Yesco. They don't use them anymore. So 6 years later, the same company that wants you to sell you a board, OES, is now partnered up with somebody else on the video. You know, so what does that kind of tell you? Well, why is that if they're using, you know, somebody that's, you know, on the up? Now, there may be a legitimate reason for it, I don't know. But that's not going to happen with Daktronics. You know, we do all this stuff ourselves. And I'd like to think it's not accidental that they have the percentage of the professional sports market that they do, because at that level, price is, you know, 4 and 5 down on the list as far as the other things. You need to have the service, you need to have the reliability, because nobody wants egg on their face when the Jumbotron's messed up, you know, during the football game. You know, the Pirates and the Steelers originally had Sony. You know, the word Jumbotron, that's a Sony product. Sony's not even in the business anymore. The Pirates, unfortunately, had to replace their Jumbotron from Sony after 3 years because they had the All-Star game coming up. The architect had originally recommended Daktronics in the construction, but the Pirates wanted to stay with Sony because they were local in Westmoreland County, so they did. But when they started having problems and Sony couldn't fix it for them, then they had to pull that video board out after 3 years and put a new one in, so that for that All-Star game early on when the PNC opened, it all looked the way that we all expected it to. And now everything down there is back to Daktronics. So that's the Daktronics story. I don't want to keep going on. I'd rather have you ask me questions. But
What is your turnaround time?
we normally have about an 8-week lead time this time of year with our equipment.
Okay.
So,
And I am
I
prepared to
saw-
offer pricing based on what.
well, I saw several emails, you know, after this, your initial email came through. I'm not on the Building and Grounds Committee, so, you know, I followed up with Mr. Brown, had some conversations, and some of the other board members, and saw some of the email communications. And one of them didn't have the attachment because it was a mail forward, but it said November 10th, attached is a proposal. February 8th, there was a price range of $350,000. April, there was an estimate of $300,000, and April 8th, there was an estimate for $375,000. So all those costs are pretty high. I mean, you know, to give my fellow board members a little credit, the other scoreboard is significantly less money than that. I know you're talking about your quality, but I mean, we're already getting, you know, a lot of heat for spending this kind of money on a scoreboard, and yours is coming in at like $100,000 more.
Well, and that was 100,000 based on what I thought we were doing, and keeping in mind that there are inclusions that the way we normally do things, as I've said to, you know, others before, there's the right way and then there's the cheap way. Based on what I was able to find out, and also through the specifications to see what they were offering with sizes and resolutions and some of that included equipment. And that's what I have kind of listed down there in the bottom of that sheet. Those are the differences based on what we were talking about on a budgetary nature versus what OES was proposing, you know, in their proposal. And those are all real costs. I mean, 8% doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about an $800,000 scoreboard, that's $8,000 and just in one item. And so you make some of the comparisons that need to be made to try to get to apples and apples, and now all of a sudden, things that we had included that I would have expected that you would have wanted, well, now those costs can come out of our proposal, and so a $300,000 number can become $250 or $225 or whatever it's going to become.
apples to apples bid, or do you not know exactly what was bid by OES?
Well, I know, I have an idea on the scoreboard, I have an idea on the video board. The sound is an open item, that there was no information, on that. I can make an educated guess, yes, but I think, a lot of times with these, a district will put together a set of criteria that, something in writing, that when they're soliciting, call it an RFI, request for information, or request for RFP, request for proposals, to try to get those vendors all into something similar, because no one's going to be identical, but that didn't happen here. All we had were conversations, and as we've heard, that it changed a lot. It was always a moving, fluid thing. Do we have 2 sponsors? Do we have 8 sponsors? How big do we want to be? In our case, we have a sound cabinet. Do we want to put the gator on that? Do we, we want to do build more material on the, and all this stuff that kind of evolves. And by the way, we need to do this and do that. And that's where I'm saying, until it all gets qualified, I've got soft costs in there for what I believe you're going to need to be done. But then if I later find out that they're not being included by others, then yeah, now I look silly or I'm at a disadvantage because I know you're going to need to be done, but no one's put a number to it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you're the man, you have to know this. The other company, the OES, they said that their Pixel, what the heck?
Pixel pitch. Mm-hmm.
Was a lot clearer than yours because you just have 3 and they have 4.
Okay, you're gonna get educated on pixels. This is the design that they are talking about. You can see that the LEDs, there's 3 of them in a little circle, that's called a pixel. And then you have rows and columns of those. Depending on the spacing of those pixels, that's your resolution. This particular one is a 16 millimeter and probably very similar to what's being proposed by Lighthouse. We have an equivalent to it. Obviously, this is a spare part for a school here locally. This is the design that we now are doing, and we do this at all the pro stadiums. This is called an HD layout. The difference is you can see how the LEDs are in columns, but the difference is you have to look at individual LED colors and look at the row of where a red is next to the next adjacent row of reds, and think of lines and columns and scaling and resolution. Okay. The other thing that this does is with this type of a layout, and I have a photo that again, at the right time, because the LEDs are spread out like this, you don't have what we call shouldering. When you look at a side angle thing, that this, okay, better off, this red LED is over here on the side, so if you're looking from this angle, that red LED is going to be blocked by the 2 adjacent LEDs. So in a stadium where side angle viewing is critical, that becomes an issue. You lose your image. Whereas in this type of a layout, you don't have that problem because you don't have the shouldering. The other thing that happens, we worry a lot about contrast. These louvers that are in here, the roofs that are over these LEDs, that provides for shading. What we have found that you want to maximize the contrast, make this background as black as possible so that when you're looking at it from a distance, that image pops off the screen. But what happens to this black material with some manufacturers, it grays as it gets old. It also, with the sun, if it's not done right, then the sun gets on there and it washes out that you can't see the image. With this type of a design, you can see that that you've got some curving kind of going on here. There's texture on this stuff that absorbs that light so it doesn't become reflective light, all of which helps your contrast in viewing. But we have plenty of photographs that I can show you, the old style design, if you will, versus the new style. But that's a typical comment from other companies that don't understand how this stuff really works and what really has proven to be better viewing for a customer in the marketplace. These are easier and cheaper to build. This is a little bit more expensive, but the result is it's a much better image that you'll be able to see, which is why we do it this way. This is what the Steelers have. This is what the Pirates have. This is what I was going to propose to you. This is what I had been proposing to you. I have this, and had I known that, okay, OES is in and we're okay with this, well then, all right, well then I'll propose this, and then we can talk about what the upcharge is to do something like that. But as I said before, there's the right way of doing things, and then there's the inexpensive way of doing things. And I usually start over here with the right way.
Did you do the one down at the PPG Center? No, who? I mean, I was down there. I was down there. Now, you were doing, like you said, stadiums. Now, do you know who did the one at the, where the Penguins are?
Penguins are actually, the video board was made by Mitsubishi. So that's going to be overseas. OES did do the scoring system, and they have the shot clocks for basketball. But that's it. You know, they're going to show you a picture of the, you know, what we're all looking at, the video board. The difference is that, you know, that's what we do. But that's not what OES does.
Could you go to the mic close?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can hear you at home.
That's not what they do, and that's why, again, that proposal that was there, if you look into the fine print, you know, those are some of the things that you need to be aware of. You know, I've talked about, you know, they call themselves the choice of the pros, but, you know, I've got a slide here, and this one thing that I was going to leave with all you guys, and I've gone over most of it, so I may as well give you the books at this point. You know, I've got a slide here that, you know, Daktronics is installed in 93% of all NFL stadiums. OES says they're installed at 25. Well, the thing about that is, yeah, they have a few systems, but if they have delay of game clocks in a practice site, well, that got counted as an NFL facility. You know, I'm talking about jumbotrons and those kind of things. You know, for baseball, it's at 86%. Hockey, it's 76. You know, they're at 39. NBA, we're in 68. They're at 47. And the only reason I make that comparative, and especially want to emphasize the outside stuff, Daktronics does very, very well in the outdoor market because those customers realize that this stuff has to live its whole life outside. It's going to be abused by the weather. It's going to be under the most extreme testing. And so if you're going to, again, make those kind of investments, then, you know, put it with a company that can support that and back that up with performance. And then you have it to a certain degree in the indoor market as well, but, you know, not as much. You know, if that makes sense as far as the durability of the product.
Okay, I'm going to throw this up. And I think we should wrap this up with the scoreboard. I don't know, does anybody have?
Why don't we just devote another night for this?
Well, I'm just saying,
No,
okay,
seriously,
how about putting together a quote for the football, baseball, softball, the marquee? See what kind of discount we can do.
I can do that. I'll need to know exactly what you want, though. I need some specific frame.
Well, you must have the dimensions, everything for the scoreboard, for the football stadium scoreboard, from what I'm gathering, because you're bringing up a lot of what was proposed by OES.
Only to make the comparison with what they offered in this specific thing.
It sounds like you know what they've offered.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, but I also don't want to be judgmental. You know, a 16-foot wide baseball scoreboard that, you know, has the score and digits and little dots may be more than adequate here for Gateway, but it won't be adequate for some other school district in town who wants the full inning by inning board, you know, and may even want a message center in there too.
Well, I'm just, you know, and I said that about the other scoreboards, but I'm just saying with, as far as the stadium scoreboard, it sounds like you have this, you know, specifics and everything. I don't know how you got them, but,
They were on your minutes or whatever from the board meeting.
okay.
To be
I'm
forthright.
just gonna throw this out here, so we're being transparent. If you could put a quote together, he's chair of the Building and Grounds, I think you would agree, George, so we don't.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, we'll be fair with you. We thought we were fair because, you know, you gave us a quote, I don't know, in March or whatever, but you're saying now if that wasn't your final quote, right?
Correct. Those were always budgetary.
Okay. And I want to be fair with this board, coming back with everything we found. If you, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Short, Dr. Short could get together and make a time that you could bring all this information in and we could give you the figures of everything, I mean, the dimensions of everything, then you could go do your work and tell us what you can do for us and be fair with us.
I would very much like that.
Because we're looking at a first football game in August, so, I mean, that's why I'm asking the turnaround time.
May I ask one more question?
No?
You said that you have this marketing department. Did you use that with Franklin Regional? Did they take advantage of that?
No, they did that on their own.
And that's one other thing I didn't know about your firm. You never did mention to us about marketing, your marketing ability. And, you know, that would be a plus towards you because you're doing a lot of legwork for us. You understand this? Instead of us hiring a PR, whatever the hell we have to do, you have the connections. And
Yeah,
that
we have
would,
a whole division of the company, that's all they do.
and that would help us more than you could think.
Okay, I can do that.
Dr. Short, do you have a deadline that you need this by? I'm just going to put that
I
out
would
there.
defer to the board at this point, to be honest with you. I mean, this
You
is
guys got.
the board decision to make.
How does, I'm going to refer this
I'll get, yeah. What's that?
to you when you need this bid in.
I like to have it done within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, within the week, I think. Let's agree to a day to meet, and then I can.
Monday.
The Building and Grounds Committee could meet with this gentleman.
How about
I think
Monday?
that would be good.
Are you open on Monday, Bob?
Sure, I'll find time.
Okay, let's find it. What time, 11 o'clock?
I know he's got a crew to get going,
Why
but
don't you
I
not
do
put him on
early.
a pressure? Why don't you call tomorrow and work it out?
Yeah.
Go from there.
Okay, 11 o'clock Monday. Meet you at his office.
Is that a firm date, or do we need to talk?
No, he said it was okay to him.
The Building and Grounds Committee could probably meet with Mr. Brown and this gentleman right here.
Yeah, that's fine with us.
All right, so Jack secretly whispered in my ear, a good question here. Are we still talking about perhaps repairing the old scoreboard or going with a new scoreboard? Now, if it's true that we want to reconsider this, could we limp through the next football season with the current scoreboard, which would buy us enough time to get a better scoreboard put in there? In other words, if it takes 8 weeks and we don't have this meeting and make a decision awfully quick, we're going to miss the opening of football season here. And so we don't want to miss our window. If we don't want to miss our window, then one option is to limp through with the existing scoreboard for another season. That's all I'm saying.
Basically gives us 30 days to get our sponsors lined up.
Well, I was gonna say, if you'd like us to pursue the sponsorship thing, that will take a little bit of time to get in place and enact, which pretty much puts this season out, unless you wanna do it in the middle of the season, but.
So we have to hurry way up.
I think I'm in agreement with you, John, that no matter what, obviously this is, the Building and Grounds Committee is going to be holding the meeting and everything, but one of the vital pieces of information I want to know is to replace, critical parts, critical pieces of the existing scoreboard to give us another 3 to 5 years of life with relatively low maintenance costs. That's kind of the number that I'm definitely interested in, on top of comparative number with the OES proposal.
Anything else, guys?
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Jerry.
Anybody else wish to address this board at this time on non-agenda items? Richard?
Scoreboard and picture still working? Okay.
Richard?
Perhaps we could bring that one up.
Still looks wonderful.
Maybe we could buy the old one. See where I'm going? Maybe we buy the old one. Yes. Some resale value.
Do you want to give a report?
Yeah.
Not at this time. I'll do it next week.
Okay. Being we went so long this evening, we're going to skip board reports and superintendent reports. But, do you have anything, Bruce?
No.
But,
I think we should devote a whole week to talk about
Scoreboards.
We sure can.
I think you should.
And we should bring in OES to,
Oh, there's no question
you know.
you're gonna hear from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is unusual, so
That's not
it's
gonna-
only,
This isn't gonna go unanswered, I'm sure.
yes. So there's only two companies.
on behalf of the Gateway School District, I would like to express our sympathy and condolences at the loss of a Gateway High School student. The student succumbed to a health condition, and our hearts go out to the family and friends of that student. And at this time, if we could have a moment of silence for this individual. Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to have a moment of silence for Valerie Warning's father-in-law that passed away yesterday. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
At this time, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Brotman. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.